be a champ. All right. Can-Am Hockey Camp.
It's Paul Crowley, the Executive Director for the Can-Am Hockey Group, here with...
That's pretty fancy.
Thanks, Gordie. Here with Gordie Howe. Gordie does not need, obviously, any introduction, but it's our privilege to have him say a few words for us. Gordie, having two sons in the NHL, what advice can you give to parents of hockey players today?
Just let the kids have fun. I know you do believe it, and I believe in it. As a matter of fact, the Howes believed in it because our third son, Murray, was a hockey player. He played with Wayne Gretzky the 1 year in junior, and then sat down, and what we tell all the kids, really, and what the parents should tell them is give yourself a choice, not a chance. And that simply means put as much time into your books as you do your given sport. Then come a time in life you can make a proper decision. And Marty and Mark went for the pro ranks and have done very well with that. And little Murray went into to be a medical doctor, and he is. But it was really quite funny. He gave himself several questions, 20 to be exact. 3 were positive for hockey and 17 positive for the book. So he said, goodbye hockey. But now he got the better part of both worlds. He's still playing on a recreational, and that's basically when we teach the adults here. That's all we're trying to do is make things a little more comfortable and they can enjoy the game.
As a youngster, Gordie, did you always have a driving force to play in the NHL? Did you visualize yourself as a NHL superstar? Maybe something to pass on to the kids, maybe that they can emulate or get some advice.
Well, yes, I dreamt. Paul, I dreamt practically every night. As a matter of fact, I practiced my autograph when I was about 7. So when I became a NHLer, I could use that autograph, and I let my mother pick one of 4, and that's the one I use today. And yes, and that's why you can tell the kids too, dream. You can visualize a lot of things, like the young goaltenders out behind us now. They got all these goaltenders, instruct them on the basics of the game, and if they just mentally can go through it and prepare themselves so it becomes automatic. And dreaming is part of your life. And there's fantasy or whatever you want to call it, but it is dreaming helps a lot.
To be the best, is there a lot of pressure? I'm sure Wayne Gretzky and Gordie Howe and Bobby Orr's, what sets them apart is to handle that pressure of the day in and day out?
Some people handle pressures, others don't. I just took it as a job. I never took the job home with me, so after I got off the ice, I was Mr. Smith on the block, and I just believed in the fact that my problems stay on the ice. Why should I bring home to my family? So it's, I guess the pressures, Paul, as you know them, is the interference with what you have to do. That's the only time I felt pressure, and I don't think an athlete really feels it till it's over. I was going for a record in goals, and it didn't bother me. At least I didn't think it did. And after I scored the goal, I almost fell asleep. The pressure is off, and the piano was off my back. But the release of that pressure after it's over is when you finally realize, yes, there was a lot of it.
Gordie, I'm sure a lot of these young players today would like to have some insight on what you did in preparing for a game, both mentally and physically.
Well, I think physically I did it 12 months of the year. Even as a professional hockey player, I went home, worked on a concrete gang to build up my what were my shoulders. But I worked very hard on the arm and upper body strength. And then as far as the physical or mental aspect of the game, I told some of the campers that one time we had a meeting, and the captain of the club said, let's get up for this game. And I said, I got up for it in September at training camp. I get up for all 80, and I think Wayne Gretzky has a proper attitude. Every shift, he might be, somebody might be experiencing him, watching him at least play that particular time. So first impression only comes once, so he's going to impress those people. Every shift that kid's out there, and other players will get as much time, but they won't play as much hockey as that, and that's what puts him apart from everybody.
Gordie, these players play a lot of games nowadays, probably a lot more than you played in a schedule. What advice could you give them in dealing with winning and dealing with losing?
Well, I think winning, sometimes winning attitude, and you'll see it sometime in baseball now. Won't mention any clubs, but there was a club a lot of other players are getting, they say they got a cocky attitude, and that's bad because the old saying, so you meet the same people going up the ladder as you do coming down, and nobody can stay on top forever. So you have to take it with, yes, pride. You got to have an awful lot of pride in your achievements, but you also have to be have a little sensitivity on the other behalf of the other players. So in the other teams, I would say it's just keep normal head, treat others as you'd like to be treated yourself, and I think that primarily would function everything. And I've had coaches who were thinking only of themselves and their jobs, not thinking the individual and what he had to do. And then I've had guys like Tommy Ivan, who was very sensitive and your feelings. Even on Christmas, you didn't have any place to go, you went to his house. And I said that's the attitude that I think that filters down into the players too. So proper management is a great way to manage an individual, because that rubs off. And so I found out that in my attitude, when I won, yes, I was happy, but I celebrated more or less alone, or with my club. I didn't go out in the public and celebrate it.
And when you hit a stretch of losses, I know that in today's game, I stopped in and watched a lot of youth games and see a lot of kids slapping their sticks on the ice, maybe yelling at one another on the bench. What kind of a comment could you have or advice for this kind of a thing for the kids?
Well, as I always say, it's a team sport, and I've had goaltenders point a finger at me, and I felt like going over and cutting his head off, because it's a team sport. You win together, you lose together, and it's nice to be able to think like somebody. So we have a very weak left defense, and I said, if you know that, then help them. Really, that's what it's all about. And don't be selfish. That's number one. Your best player in the hockey right now, Wayne Gretzky, is not a very selfish man. He'll make 3 dekes to put a guy out in the open, to put it in. So with that kind of attitude, that's why he's so admired across the country by his teammates. And if you want that admiration, I played with guys who only get 12 goals a year, yet they're the most liked guys on the Red Wing Hockey Club. And it's the personality that goes along with it. And when you get that proper blend of personality, togetherness. For instance, we used to have about probably twice a month we'd get together with our wives or girlfriends or whatever, and if you didn't show up, you paid anyway. So everybody, it's almost like a guarantee everybody would be there. But what it was togetherness, and it's so common. I've even at one time in my life, I gave up a goal, which was obviously mine. I gave it to another youngster because it kicked him off. And from that point on, in the last 18 games a year, he scored 20 goals that helped us get in the playoffs. So it's just an act of kindness will go a long way. And you have to be sensitive to the other's feelings.
In terms of a young player that wants to be recruited or scouted, what do you look for in specifically a forward or a defenseman?
Well, I like hands, you know that. I teach the shooting and the passing, and you can automatically, we were together one time, and I saw one kid was far and apart better than anybody else in the mechanics of shooting, and I said, obvious somebody's worked with you, and he said, yes, Bobby Crawford, another professional young hockey player. So the mechanics of it, I look for the mechanics of a hockey player, the skating abilities, the smartness. From the shoulders up, a hockey player can put himself apart from many, but also guts. It's an awful way to put it, but I like to see a guy that could play all 200 by 85. The ones that stay out in front away from the corner, they it leads to a little thinking. But I would say the total overall picture, they kind of stand out. It's no secret in the game of hockey to pick your first 4 or 5 draft choices. The secret of the scouts now is to pick that 3rd and 4th and 5th round. That takes an inside eye, but they also you have to see more than once. But from a player's point of view, sometime, and this has happened very close to home, where a player was down at heart and he says, well, I've been getting no breaks at all. So he said, the heck without it, put the year in. What had happened, management were talking a trade to get this kid into another team. And the scout went there and he said, it looks like he has no heart for the game, and the deal was off. It's just, to the young hockey players, even the old pros, boy, get out there and give your best at all time. You never know who's looking.
Gordie, everybody probably wants to know, who is the toughest goalie that you had to shoot against during your illustrious career?
I should say Bobby Froze because he's behind me, but actually Terry Sawchuk, there's no doubt in my mind. I played a lot with Terry, and I played quite a bit against him. It was my good fortune to play against him after he had a bout of illness, really, and it slowed him a little bit. His weight went from 218 down to about 180, and he lost a lot of strength and power and quickness, which is very much a part of your goaltending equipment. And he, even at that, he won a lot of games at the age when they should be well retired. But I just think there's a lot of goaltenders emulated that man, and as a stand-up positional goaltender, he and Johnny Bauer probably rank with the best of them.
I'm going to ask you, who do you think is the best goalie today?
Today be a little tough to say. Pros, I know, won the goals against, and on some days he looked like probably the champion of all champs, and then other days he'd admit they had a little trouble. We got a guy over in Hartford, Mike Liut, who is, I would say, game to game, he's probably as solid as any goaltender. And if you took shots against and saves, he probably, right now, I would say he ranks with the best of them right now.
Wayne Gretzky, everybody wants to know what makes the guy tick. Gordie, I know that you and I have talked on occasion, and you've had an opportunity to see him as a youngster and grow as a person. What kind of an attitude does he have? What makes him so special mentally that gives him that upper edge on other hockey players?
Well, he's smart, number one, sacrifice, dedication, and he's got a drive and desire to be the best, which he is, and he's a very caring person. He does a tremendous amount of work off season, even during the season, for charities, and so he's well liked, and he's well within himself. Like I think Wayne had the good fortune to be in front of the press when he was about 12 or 13, and he got accustomed to it, so he knows how to handle success. But the nice thing about it, if you ever talk to Wayne, he is Wayne. It's simple as that. He's got a head on his shoulders. He's smart. And then on the ice, I played with him against the Russians. I found out the kid is light years ahead of everybody else in his thinking. He can anticipate your moves before you're going to make them almost. And so with that, he adjusts to it. So and when he's out there, he uses all 200 by 85, the whole surface of the ice, but he's also positioning himself in a case where everything's in front of him. He never puts his back to the play, and if he does, he has a very quick move to get back around. But he is extremely clever young man who has a burning desire to be perfection at the A level, and he is that. And this does not come by accident. This comes by hard work. And if you really want to appreciate the kid, watch him when he hasn't got the puck. He works harder when he hasn't got the puck than he has it.
K&M hockey camps are exciting and they're so fun. You'll leave a better player when your stay there is done. Changes are constantly taking place in the game of hockey today. With new innovative techniques, you know K&M leads the way.